Aikido was when I was in junior college, so that was in 1981, 1982, 81, 82, I believe, semester. And I was junior college, and I didn't want a competitive sport again. And I heard about this nonviolent, non-competitive martial art, and I thought, oh, I'll take that class. And the reason what got me is that I was found that when I was training with my instructor there at the college that one day he had an observation and he said, "You have a lot of defensiveness in your body." Anybody else would have said that to me, I would have punched them. But to him, it wasn't judgmental. It was just a clear observation that, and it was true. I had a lot of defensiveness, one just probably from my childhood, and locked up. And so I found that the martial arts and Aikido, I could learn a lot about who I was through the movement. And I could learn to soften some of the defensiveness into blending rather than, fight. And fighting for
Mm.
me is definitely in my nature. I have to say, even though there's definitely a peacemaker and a soft side to me, there is a warrior, and that's, I don't know, part of my nature. I think I felt like I was fighting from the first breath to breathe. Breathing was, from a baby, I remember not being able to breathe. And with my dad, it felt like if I lost the fight, I would die.
Mm.
So there was that complication of how do I learn how to blend rather than fight? And that's been a lifelong integration.
So
How
keto
is the
was really good for you
peacemaker?
in that respect.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And so I've been at it ever since. I had my own school and yeah, so
Yeah, and
it's
you were a
been,
fifth degree black belt. And there was some story in your book where some guy picked you up and gave you a ride and then drove off down some dirt road and obviously didn't have the
yeah.
most altruistic motivations in mind. And you somehow spooked him into taking you back to a hotel.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy experience. That story is about releasing fear and abandoning fear. And one of the most powerful experiences of my life, but I feel like I had practiced that many years before, uh, because there was a part of me that always knew there's a part of me that you can never touch no matter what happens to my physical body. I
Mhm.
remembered that aspect of who I was that couldn't be, it's untouchable. And as long as we have that, there really is nothing to be afraid of. But anyways,
Still, but you still don't want somebody to mess with your physical body either.
no,
Anyway,
that wouldn't have been pleasant at all, but I have a feeling he would have lost. But so I was not hitchhiking, I was walking because the bus, I had 5 more miles to go, and he pulled to the side and said, "You wanna ride?" And so I said, "Okay," and so I jumped in, put my backpack in the back, and it was just a 5-mile ride down to Taizé, which is an ecumenical conference and a gathering of young people around the world. Anyways, he had other plans, and it ended up getting dark, and he drove down a dirt road, and everything in my body was just shaking in fear. And so it's like the cartoons when your knees knock, the knees knock, and I felt like I was kind of out of my body as he was driving down the road. I thought, you're in a bad situation. You don't speak the language. You're secluded here, and this is not good. And I just started
oh,
praying.
this was not an English speaking person?
No, it's French. It was
Oh,
in France.
okay. In France.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was in the countryside in France. So
Yeah,
he was trying to get seclusion by driving down this dirt road off the highway.
right.
And I just started praying, and I said, if this starts, one of us will not leave here tonight. You know, he will kill me or I'll kill him, but I would not be a victim. I will not be a victim. And
Hmm.
just that prayer, that everything softened in me because I determined at that point there was only, one way out of this, and yet there was a third way, which was he shifted. Because at that point, when I let go of my life, there was only one life left to take, and it was his. And I would have killed him, and I wouldn't have left him breathing. And some people say, "How can you be a nonviolent person?" It's like, I teach self-defense. I teach downright dirty self-defense to women. I have taught at the university for over 10 years. And, people say, "How can," there was a story, I'll continue that story in a minute. But, there was a story when I was in college where I told at the university every semester where, you know, um, people would say, especially women, I would never fight back, because, I can't do that. I never poke their eyes out because, that's gross. It's like, well, would you do it if your child was there? Yes, absolutely. Women will protect their children no matter what. And so I said, well, not protecting yourself, then, you've left your family with a lifetime. So we have a right to self-defense. And so, I mean, I haven't given that over to nonviolence yet. I'm that's the warrior in me. And so